deeply a deceptive philosopher. He says, today you are sick, so better do it tomorrow. The reason is, we want to, but we are not will. We cannot do that. There is a conflict between will and mind, intellect and mind. Intellect wants to make progress, but mind is not willing to participate. And every spiritual practice has got one aim in mind, that is to bridge the gap between intellect and mind. We all live at mental level, not intellectual level. If we could all live at intellectual level, we could all become philosophers, saints, overnight. But it doesn't happen, because we are carrying this burden, this back, tendencies and impressions. So, Patanjali also makes a very creative, constructive suggestion. You fill this bag with more and more positive tendencies, positive actions, positive images, positive memories. Now, there is another dimension to this. Patanjali is not portraying a bleak and pleasant picture of the realities of human life. In fact, in the Bhagavad Gita, the 6th chapter, it's a kind of a dialogue between Arjuna and Krishna. There is an interesting dialogue. Arjuna puts a question before Krishna. This is Ayadi Shraddhayopedo Yoga Charidamanasaha Aprapi Yoga Samsiddhim Kam Gatim Krishna Gacchati. So, Arjuna asks one question. Look here, Arjuna. Suppose a spiritual seeker who is very sincere, very earnest, very honest. He practices meditation and japa. But then he doesn't succeed. He falls by the wayside. He dies away before he makes any progress. What happens to that person? Is everything lost? Then it's a terrible fate. We make sincere effort and we don't succeed, or we don't succeed enough. Is everything lost? In answer to this, the teacher of Gita, Lord Krishna, gives a great promise. He says, nothing is lost. Parthanaideha namutra vinasas tasya vidyade nahi kalyana kritkaschit durgadim tadaviccha. This is the answer. The answer is very simple. Whatever little effort you have made in this life, you have meditated only 10 minutes only every day, could not do more than that. You listen to a few lectures, and because of duties and responsibilities, other problems, you couldn't make enough progress. Nothing will be lost. Or you have done some noble deeds, not necessarily belief in God. You have done something good for others. With total unselfishness, without any selfish motive, you have done good for others. Work for the welfare of other people, the neighbors. All these good actions, whether you have done spiritual practices for yourself, or done some unselfish service to others, all these will create a capital, a bank balance. And this will remain in the back of your mind stuff, chitta. So what happens? You carry this back as in relay running to the next life. So Vedanta insists on one point. This life doesn't end with a piece of stone in the cemetery. The body is pushed to that electronic crematorium. This journey doesn't end. Only the physical body, its journey comes to an end. It is made of 5 elements, matter. But there is something deeper, invisible, which is imperishable. We call it Atman or consciousness, soul. It remains intact and it continues to exist. It will be born again in the next life. And when it's born in the next life, whatever good deeds you have done, whatever good spiritual practices you have done in this life, you have created a spiritual capital, bank balance, spiritual bank balance. You'll be benefited by this spiritual capital. So he says, Tatrata buddhi samyogam labhade paurvadehikam kriyades tado bhuya samsiddho kurunantana. The verse is very significant. Lord Krishna says, if you have done some solid spiritual practices, at least for some time in this life, and didn't fully succeed, could do enough, and you die, what happens? These good tendencies and impressions which you accumulated in this life will remain in your mind stuff, and that will help you to move forward in your spiritual life, in the next life. So the tendencies and impressions created in this life, good tendencies and good impressions created and accumulated in this life, will become a great spiritual capital, and that will help you to move forward in spiritual life. That's why we are helpless, because we have accumulated some good tendencies, so we have to function, we have to move in this way. It is not fatalism, it's pure science. It's not fatalism. Vedanta is the very antithesis of predeterminism and fatalism. Purely science, scientific. We do certain things because of our character. And our character is the end result, the substratum, the abstract residual form of whatever we have done in the past. And that character again determines our activities and tendencies in this life, which again enrich or remodel our character again. This cycle continues unless we realize that we are something beyond this body, beyond this mind, beyond intellect, we are the all-pervading Atman. This is the answer. Which means all these problems can be solved, countered, if we try to keep all this in mind. Which means any good action, any good tendency, anything that creates a positive tendency in our mind is welcome. It will enrich our character. It will help us to practice japa and meditation with greater and greater concentration. In the practice of japa, so as I said earlier, first mind should be made ready. If there are problems, it's because of the dominance of negative tendencies we accumulated. That can be countered by creating more and more positive tendencies, reading more spiritual books, discussing more and more of spiritual ideas, and listening to spiritual ideas, contemplating on spiritual ideas. All these will help us to enrich the positive aspect of this human character. It's called internal organ. So now we will have interaction for about 35-40 minutes. So we can discuss any topic that we have discussed so far, or even any general topic related to this subject.
Is there a difference between sublimation and substitution? Is there any?
Yes, sublimation is always a change, an elevation, for a change for the better. Substitution may not always be a change for the better. It could be a change for the worse sometimes. So sublimation, well, in spiritual life, sublimating our desires, that's a term I used. In fact, I understand the context. We are not able to concentrate on spiritual themes because we have desire for spiritual life, but we also have desire for non-spiritual ideas also. So those non-spiritual desires can be sublimated. So every human being has got one focus of desires. So all these desires can be sublimated. Sublimation means refining, purification, elevating them to a higher level so that they will be more helpful in spiritual life. Sublimation clearly implies a change for the better, an improvement, where substitution need not necessarily for the better. That's idea.
In the mantra, there could be a bija shabda. So that is the one that determines the relationship of the aspirant towards the ishta. Is that a fixed thing? Is there because on a daily basis you may not have the same mood or bhava towards ishta. And how to counteract that monotony, or some days when you're not able to create the bhava?
Yes, this bija, in fact the same bija mantra is joined with the names of different deities. So it is the individual name of the independent deity that determines its implication. So let us say, I will explain. First, on the universal general level, we have got Omkara, which is the all-pervading Atman, supreme reality. Then Hrim, then there are different bija aksharas, bija mantras. There are many bija mantras which are joined with many other independent deities. Then at the third level, we have got independent names, deities joined with the bija aksharas, and also with maybe Omkara. Okay. So if we are not able to practice this, we feel that, well, you cannot meditate. Physically, you cannot bring your mind, bring yourself to sit and do japa and meditation. You read a good book, or you listen to a lecture, which also is spiritual content. Somehow you should try to link your mind with some spiritual idea. More concrete practices, grosser practices are easier and less problematic. More abstract and subtle practices like japa or meditation, etc. may be a little more internal and may become more problematic. But you can listen, you can read. All these will keep you at the spiritual realm, the world of spiritual ideas. So that can be a good substitute. Here the word substitute can be used. Instead of doing japa, if you cannot do that at all due to distraction of mind, read a holy book, a related spiritual book.
But if you're able to do japa, but that the mood or the relationship that is indicated by the bija shabda is not something you're able to consistently have when you sit down for meditation in the morning, what are some of the tools or techniques?
Yes, according to Patanjali system, yoga system, mind moves in waves. So when the vritti and tendency rises, there is knowledge. But then it comes down and again the vritti rises again. That middle level, the intermediary level called sthiti. So at that time it is related to tamoguna, inaction. But it is there is no knowledge at all at that level. So first of all we must understand mind doesn't move in a continuous progression. There will be ups and downs. That's very natural. But when the mind goes down too low, then before it reaches the rock bottom, we can save it from reaching the rock bottom by diverting it to spiritual ideas, reading a book, listening to devotional songs. All these will help the mind, prevent the mind from reaching the lower level. That's a very important thing, because sometimes people will, I must either meditate or do nothing. That is wrong. That is a very dangerous idea. I must be able to sit and meditate without any distraction, or I would rather don't do that. That's wrong. If we can't meditate and there are too many distractions and obstacles you confront, then better divert the mind to reading a good book, spiritually elevating book, listening to devotional music, or there are fellow spiritual seekers discussing with them spiritual ideas. That could be done. Somehow keeping the mind from hitting the rock bottom. That's why there are different levels in the spiritual classic Bhagavata Purana. There are 9 methods are given here. Sravanam, Kirtanam, Vishnu, Smaranam, Padasevanam, Archanam, Vandinam, Dasyam, Sakhyam, Atma Nivedana. So, you listen, you recite, you remember, try to remember, then if you have got a photo, you can do worship. You can keep flowers, decorate, or you can write an article on spiritual life. Try to remember. Any of these process, any of these methods can be used. Mind will never be in such a miserable condition that you are not able to do any of these things. Mind will never reach such a level. So mind should somehow be kept in touch with a link attached to some kind of spiritual activity or idea. That will gradually help us to move forward. So we'll continue this. So today we have 3:30 to 5 o'clock. Yes. 5 o'clock. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti.